Okay, welcome everyone to the Spiritist Society of Richmond. This is the message 14 from the book Living Spring and from Francisco Cândido Xavier by the Spirit Emmanuel. Page 41. Our opportunity question. And he asked them, did you receive the Holy Spirit when you believed? The apostolic question is still resounding in all directions and highly opportune in the cycle of Christianity. Everywhere is the most varied situation. There are people who are just beginning to believe and people who already do believe. Here, there are those who apparently accepted the gospel in order to be acceptable to those around them. There are those who search the fields of faith in order to resolve what they regard as important intellectual issues. Somewhere else, sick persons receive their help of charity and declare themselves to be followers of the gospel because of the physical relief. Nevertheless, tomorrow, most of them become as unhappy and desperate as they used to be. Such a phenomenon are very common in the arenas of spirits. There are a large number of fellow spirits who claim to have faith because they confirm the life after death of some discarded family member, or because they were cured of a headache, or because they found solution to certain problems in the physical struggle. However, tomorrow they still have doubts about spirits, friends, and respectable mediums. They develop new illness, or they get lost in new mazes of the human learning experience. Paul's question is still current. What kind of spirit have you received as a result of our belief in Jesus' guideline? The spirit of fascination, of indolence, or of pointless scrutiny, of constant disapproval of other people's lives. If you do not harbor the spirit of sanctification, which make us better individuals renewed as in Christ, then our faith is like fragile candle. Those flame is easily extinguished by the first puff of wind.
You're doing just fine. You're all doing just fine. All right, let's take a moment to close our eyes and pray together. Dear Mother, Father God, thank you so much for bringing us here. Thank you for one more day in this lifetime where we are blessed with the joy of living. We thank you, Lord, for this blessed space, for this blessed center where we can feel the loving presence of our mentors and guides, the mentors of our group, who here are to inspire us to new knowledge, new insights, and greater understanding of the laws of God, allowing us to grow, to develop, to learn from one another. We pray that this room and our center be filled with loving light, and that this loving light can reach the homes of everyone who is here in both realms of life, including those who join us over the different social media pages. Dear God, we ask you for the protection of the superior spirits, so that our minds and hearts can be joined with them to form a magnetic field of protection against those who are still to learn of the Christ. And we thank you for the teachings of Spiritism, and we pray for Allan Kardec, whatever he is, as we celebrate the publication of the Spirit's book, and also of the Gospel according to Spiritism here in April. Our eternal gratitude to him, to Amélie, who supported him in this lifetime. We ask you for your permission to begin our studies today. So, how's everybody doing on a beautiful spring day, where we join forces with the superior spirits, fighting the allergies, fighting the pollen, blessed pollen. But today is going to be an interactive conversation. For those who will join us, this is our schedule, of course. Today we'll be talking about this Allan Kardec in the Spirit's book. And this will be more like a quiz preparation for a Jeopardy game. One day we'll have a Jeopardy game. But it's important that we start. It's important that we start thinking about how much we know and where we want to go. So whenever I ask the questions, you're going to be writing the answers so that you can check yourself. Now remember, we have all been through different courses. Everybody who is online, please pick up a piece of paper because they've just given them clipboards. So first of all, who is Allan Kardec? Or who was Allan Kardec? I mean, he still is, because life doesn't end. This lifetime ends, and this personality, identity, and body ends. And then we had the one in the past, and we have one in the future. So we have a point of creation, but no end. So life doesn't end. Life goes on. But this lifetime or this reincarnation is time limited. So as I was talking about, who is Allan Kardec?
Well, he was like
This dude.
he was a professor at the time, but he not just like a professor like now, because he could teach different subjects. The knowledge that he had was fantastic.
Different times in professorship, right?
Yeah.
Where there was, nowadays we sometimes take it for granted, but we have universal free education in the US up to a point, right? Back then, there were less knowledge too, so you could know more of everything. Well, we know him as the codifier of Spiritism, the father of Spiritism. He compiled the knowledge that we know. Now, the knowledge that we know in Spiritism is not new to Spiritism. Some things are, some things aren't, but it's more like he put it all together. So we consider him to be the codifier of Spiritism. Now, what was his real name? There's one name missing in that. Actually, there's 4 names.
Hmm?
You got almost all of them. There's one missing in there.
Oh,
Hippolyte, then is our revival. Is that what you say, right? There's one name. Anybody else? Hippolyte, Leon,
Oh,
Denizar.
Leon.
Think Leon Denis, and you won't forget. Leon Denis, one of his disciples, if you will. So his name is Hippolyte Leon Denizar Revival, and I apologize. My keyboard didn't allow me all the accentuations that come with his name. But that was his name. And who was his wife? Because we don't talk about her very much, but she's an important aspect of his work. Right? A lot of us talk about people, but we also forget the support work, that counts.
Mhm.
What was her name? I did hint at it when I was praying, so. Her name was Amélie Boudet. She's on the picture, right? That's a representation of her. It's not a random person who was helping. Throughout his career, she was there helping. And did they have any children? No children. They did not have children. All right, so we want to think about Allan Kardec as someone who, and we'll talk a little bit about his trajectory. Now we know who he was, what he did. As Teresina was saying, he was prepared. He did some different works, and I will link in. If you just Google Charles Kempf and Allan Kardec, he's a French guy who is a spiritist, and he has done plenty of talks on the history of Allan Kardec, the biography of Allan Kardec, with details, with pictures, with even the genealogy, which we've talked about in the past, the genealogy of who he comes from, a family of lawyers. In the past, there wasn't much of a choice where you study law, you study medicine, sometimes you study both. He knew chemistry, physics, botanics. He could have easily been a physician, but he went into the professorship, a teacher type. When was he born? And when did he discarnate? Remember, have a piece of paper if you want to write this all down for the future.
Leon.
He was born in Lyon, France. Well, when was he born? And when did he die? That should be easy to know.
He died on the 31st of March.
Of each year. What was the last book he published?
Obras póstumas.
I wasn't thinking about that one, but yeah. Well,
But I don't know how to say it.
posthumous works.
Okay.
I don't know if we have that book in English. I know we have that book in Portuguese for sure. But from the 5 books, which one was the last one? And that's a question that's coming up too.
Heaven and Hell. No? Genesis.
When was Genesis published? So he was born in, this is supposed to be fun. I know we've talked about it before. I'm going to keep asking the same question until it solidifies in our mind. October 3rd, 1804. And it's incarnated in, it says 19, but that's my typo. It's 1869. So I'm going to pass this so people don't see that. I think it was 1169. So what books did he write?
The Gospel according to Spiritism.
Okay. That's 3.
Heaven and Hell.
Anything else? Okay, so now write down the books and then write down the years they were published. Practice makes perfect. One day we'll think it over. Remember, he just talked about when he died, so none of the books can come before after he died, except for posthumous works. All right. You could potentially go in and look what was happening in the world back then, who was leading French. Now, even before Allan Kardec codified, and there were a few years out there where he was, there were 2 years of conversations between him and the mediums, the young mediums, before he mentioned to his wife that he was going to write. And then the spirits told him he was going to write. 10 years earlier, there was a different set of events that culminated into the spiritualist movement occurring. So what is that event and when that happened?
Hydesville,
Hydesville, where is Hydesville?
New York.
New York. With the Fox sisters. That's one of the main ones. Of course, spirit phenomena has occurred throughout history, right? And Paul, as you see in the Paul and Stephen had communication with Stephen and Abigail. Christ was removing spirits from people left and right, so before Christ came about. So this is ancient. So really, the truth is one, right? The truth is one. The ways are many. So throughout our evolution, Christ has sent the missionaries in different religions. So like the folks across from us in the Buddhist temple believe in reincarnation, believe in karma, right? We use different words for the same concepts with some differences. We don't believe in retrospection or regression. We only believe in progress. Differences. So it took a long time for the human race to appear on the earth, to have a certain technology and tools. In the book of Evolution to Worlds, the manual talks about in the beginning, there's way more exchange between the two realms. Because it's unconscious, we don't really know, but we are like living together. Right now we are living together with the folks from the lower zones, and we don't know. But then over time, took that many years, 4.5 billion, right? Before Christ was able to come to the earth. It's taken 2,000 years, we're still not fully understood all his glories. So the main books are the Spirit's book, the Medium's book, the Gospel, Heaven and Hell, and Genesis. One easy way to know when Kardec discarnated, he discarnated almost a year to the date from Genesis. Genesis was published in January, he discarnated March of the following year, like 1869. And the book, the Spirit's book, and there are different versions of the Spirit's book, right? There's this version, there's the newest translation, there's this version, which is my book from way back when I started. You can see I have it's more used than this one. There's a message from Kardec in the preface to the revised edition. He published first a shorter, it was about 500-600 questions. And then he explains there were more to be needed, that he did the categories that we're going to see right now. What else did he write? You mentioned one, posthumous works, not going to be on my slide. Well, what else we know that is part of Kardec? The main book, if you all could read the main books, even a little bit at a time, start with the Spirit's book and go to the Gospel every year.
There was the Spiritist trip of 1862.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's that one. It's not on my slide, but it's a good reminder. I was thinking about two bigger books, a little book and a bigger book.
Spiritism in its simplest expression.
And there is one that's called What is Spiritism? actually have both of those here. And there was a monthly, this is how dedicated he was. Everything that he made professionally, he put back on Spiritism. The books that he sold were back in Spiritism. There's a story here is in this book, and I think it's on this one too. Let me see if he included it on this one. No, he did not. But in this book here, you have the preface to the book by Anna Blackwell, who translated the book from French to Portuguese to English. Where she talks about the history of Allan Kardec. Talks about how, as a young child, he went to study with Pestalozzi in Switzerland, which is different methodology. He was very inquisitive. He used to teach the people in the school that knew less than he knew. He would help them, like tutoring, we call this age, right? For free. Later, he came back from Switzerland at age 24. He published books at age 24. And I think I wrote the page. I'll wait to you so I don't think I'm saying those things. There are 5 books that he published in French in general about French education system. A plan for the improvement of public instruction in 1828 at age 24. Course in practical theoretic arithmetic on the Pestalozzian system. For the use of teachers and mothers, I have probably people teaching their kids at home without a formal system of education, which in certain parts of the world is still, you have to have money and pay to go, right? Classical grammar of the French tongue, mainly for the use on the examination of public schools, so they had public schools, normal dictations for the examinations of Hotel de Ville and Sorbonne. So there are different books that he published professionally, in addition to the Spirit book. He was also a member of different societies, the Royal Society of Arras, he was secretary of the Phrenological Society of Paris, the Society of Magnetism, which is pertinent because back then they had mesmer, animal magnetism, somnambulism. That was, he had, just as you've seen Paul, remember we talked about Paul being educated in different places and his way of thinking, speaking multiple languages, which would come handy when he traveled. Kardec studied with Pestalozzi in a time where Pestalozzi's education is more into instruction and exploration versus you sit and you receive the instruction, like many of us have, right? It's more like Montessorian type of you go and explore, you help one another. So he was studying different things in chemistry, biology, and he was also part of the Society for Magnetism, which allowed him this practical investigation of solemnism, trance, and clairvoyance. Because sometimes we look at people, Chico Xavier, Divaldo, Allan Kardec, and we're like, oh, they just one day, a switch flipped and they start doing things right all the time. It has a time of preparation, right? That's why we tell you have to start young. You have to plant the seed young. Maybe they won't do it right away, but one day they will. And whatever we study in previous lives. So it wasn't like he just started right away. And then when we think about the systematic investigation that he did, that you and I take advantage of today, when he was part of his instruction, his way of thinking, his questioning, allowed him to question the spirit, to know what questions to write. It wasn't like one day he saw the tables turning and all of a sudden, it took years. Remember, he was born in 1804. He was already writing books at the age of 24, 1828. So if you do the math, in 1848 is when the Hydesville work was happening. It was 10 years before the publication of the Spirit's book, roughly. Then he had all that time of professional. So everything that we do, we talk about, everything we do can be a preparation for us to be of service. So if you learn it well, then we can use it. Not that you're going to go learn there to use here or learn here to use there, but it happens, right? The ways we are studying of Spiritism and seeing life differently, you can take it and think about it. So we also have the Spiritist magazine. This is a picture of the Spiritist magazine that is available in English language. I think we have the yellow one here for sale, but in the United States Spiritist Federation, they are translating the volumes. But you can go to Kardecpedia, and they're all there. And a lot of things you see on the books, he first published in the magazine. I call the Spiritist Review, or the Review Spirited. So he was a dialogue. He would receive letters, he would respond. So, for example, when I tell you that on Jupiter, they have different types of housing, but they don't have labor like we do here. They don't have animals to do labor, for example. Of course, it's a different type of labor. The probes have passed Jupiter and haven't seen nothing from the clouds, never seen a house or building, right? So it has to be a different world, a world only good reigns. It has to be different for the type of work we did. I'll give you an example. We're driving here, we have to pass through the toll, right? One day, all cars will come with an easy pass. Everybody will have a bank account. The cars will come with a chip, not even easy pass. They will know when you go for the toll. You pay the toll from road maintenance, but there wouldn't be a poor soul that has to work inside the booth to pick up the money or things that get stuck, right? Things improve. Before, we all had to stay in the toll and give the money. Now we have easy pass. In the future, the cars will have that. After all, you have a license, so there's no reason why they can't know who you are to send your bill later if they needed to. So the labor changes, the type of work we do changes as we improve morally. So those works is on 18. There is one issue of the magazine that has all the works, that has three articles on life in Jupiter. And it escapes me right now if it's 58 or 68. It's one of it ends on 8, so it can only be. So that another set of, if we have read this, you have to go read, we have to constantly be studying. Just like our friends go to the Catholic Church, the Protestant Church, the Evangelical Church, any church, or the Buddhists, they know the Vedas, they know their books. We need to know our books and what's in there so we can have an intelligent conversation. Because the beauty of Allan Kardec, he started this rational spiritualism, right? Rational faith. And he said, if science goes against spiritism, we go to science. But so far we know that the books, the things he published here, he came before the science of reincarnation with the UVA, Jan Stevenson's, the books of André Louise with all the things it talks about how mind creates disease on the body, mind controlling the perispirit, controlling the body, and then you have the reincarnation, you have the things we did, the knots in the perispiritual body that puts you more risk for disease. It's there. It's just a matter of time where we catch up to what science, science of the physical, because we are limited. Scientists are limited to what's measurable. And if 96% of the universe is dark matter, dark energy, we have a lot to explore. We haven't thought through, there's got to be more than what we see. Takes for someone who has been a materialist before, so you go for the phase of individuation. You grew up Catholic like I did, you share in the church child did, and then eventually you're like, this is, and a lot of times we individuate by pushing away and questioning, but also because there's no coherence between word and action. There's a lot said, but not much done. And then we look at the history of religions, the things we've done over the name of religion, and the actions of the individual people in the church, and then we said it can't be true, because if we really liked it, it wouldn't be done this. And that's true in every, even in the Spiritist movement, we have people who fell, who made mistakes. Some of the mistakes are more private, that's the hope ours are, but some are more open. We talk about someone like Valdo Vieira who left Chico Xavier in New York, picked up and went. That delayed is his choice. You have free will. That's a reincarnatory plan. We have to think about the reincarnatory plan is constantly, the spirits are constantly trying to corral us. Remember the Bible? The shepherd goes and tries to, that's what they're doing. Like, don't fall there, don't fall there. And they're praying, but they're allowing us to make the mistake. So that's a choice. Imagine the type of powerful, he was psychographing next to Chico Xavier, will be take about 2,000 years before giving the same type of. Emmanuel describes in his book, he had the opportunity to follow Christ back then, but now he's almost 1,000 years ago, he's able to follow through. So we let people make choices, and our mentors are like, that's why I have to be more elevated. We can barely bear our own mistakes and mistakes of our family members. We can think that we're going to discarnate, become angels, and come back to help. We'll come back to help, but not as angels, as support, as familiar spirits. Right? Our protective spirits have to be of a higher caliber. The spirits who take care of the earth have to be of a higher caliber, because we wouldn't be able to bear the suffering of the beings we're caring for, human or not. As humans. So he brought to us this knowledge that here is only partially represented. I didn't put the travel book is already translated. The posthumous work is not that I'm aware of. But Kardecpedia has a bunch of languages. So they capture everything that they knew is there. Charles Kemp has all this stuff in English, in French original. They've already digitized everything. And I forgot the name of he did a talk on usually they do in the International Spiritist Council talks once a month. He did one where he showed because we're going to be this year we're dedicating to Gabriel Delan. My talk is in November, but he has done his already, where he shares the French website. So if you know French, you know someone who knows French, you can go in there and see. Kardecpedia, you can see. Have you ever visited Kardecpedia?
Mhm.
Do you know what I'm talking about when I say Kardecpedia?
Yeah.
Do you? No.
What I didn't know is that the magazine is already translated, the 5 years.
Mhm.
Wow. Okay.
So we're going to share. Because sharing is caring, and we are. If I can make this share. Just so this is the website. This is Kardecpedia. Oh, so just showing here, but not there. Okay. So whoever is following me online can see this. This is live on demand here. All right, so we're gonna do this.
Mhm.
Then we share. Share window. Yeah, so share window. So here we have Wikipedia. So these are all the languages available in Kardecpedia. So I default to English, but all of these works are available for you to read. See, the Script Review, Journal of Psychological Studies, all the way to 69. And if you were to the word soul becomes everything that you have. You have a word soul in any of these books. So it's a very so this is the script book. And then you can just read. And if you want it in
What are those languages? The last two. It's like Chinese.
Chinese of some sort, they already have it in Chinese.
Alemão.
So there's not as many, but they already have the script book, the medium's book, and the gospel according to script. Which one is Spanish or the Italian, right? So that is all there for us to enjoy.
I like the search feature.
Wow, that's great.
So the legacy of Kardec is unparalleled. I want to share an entire screen, except that I don't want that in there. This red. Okay. So we want to think about, his legacy and not waste the time. So every time we think about scrolling on Instagram, we go and look in Kardecpedia. Kardecpedias are designed to have the dopamine hits and notifications, but maybe that's coming. So Kardec has been a faithful servant, if you will. A lot of it has to do with his preparation. The fact that he believed he wasn't a medium. So I have so when he decided he was remarking to his wife that he wanted to write a book, the spirits gave him a communication. So for the people who say, I can't do this because I'm not a medium, I can't be a lead a spiritual center because I'm not a medium, Kardec wasn't a medium. He used reason. Even mediums who lead spiritual center can be deceived. So we all, regardless if you're medium or not, you have to question. If an idea comes, you have to be like, does that make sense? Does it align with my values, the values of the group? Is it going to hurt anybody? Do I have the resources? Can we do it? And you put the seed. The seeds I've placed here. We started the children's study. Thank God the seeds is there. We are hoping to start a library. We have a bookstore. The bookstore sells a book. The library would be us bringing the books we haven't used, make it available for everybody, and then we can share. We want to do the service. We are granted, blessed with the opportunity to go to the assisted living once a month. Those are ideas that come, and then over time we're able to actualize in them. So this is what the spirits tell him. So he worked with mainly two mediums, but remember he received the communications, put it all together for all over the world. If you look at the spirits, but we have to pay attention when we read these books to the introduction of the book, to the way the books are structured. We'll talk about the spirits book in a little bit. How is it structured? Because it has a way. The medium's book is structured different than Heaven and Hell, than Genesis, than the Gospel. So each book has a different purpose. So he was working with the mediums, and apparently there were girls, and people say, oh, teenagers are worth nothing. No, some are. Okay, we just have to teach them to focus on the good, instead of focusing what's outside that is not relevant. It says here he goes after 2 years of observations and writings. He tells his wife, it's the most curious thing. My conversation with the invisible intelligence have completely revolutionized my ideas and convictions. The instructions thus transmitted constitute an entirely new theory of human life, duty, and destiny, which appears to me to be perfectly rational and coherent, admirably lucid and consoling, and intensely interesting. I have a great mind to publish these conversations in a book, for it seems to me that what interests me so deeply might very likely prove interesting to others as well. His wife warmly approved of his idea, and so he then submitted it to an unseen interlocutor. So he had an idea, and he asked the spirits in the meeting. A lot of people say, we will add this to our website. It might be helpful. I saw a website the other day. I was looking for someone who could potentially come here one day, give a talk. And the website has what to expect, because people don't know. So you edit that to our website, put a picture, And it was explicit on their websites. Our meetings are calm, cordial, friendly. We study the Spiritist. There are no Spiritist manifestations. Because people sometimes want to see, but still in that we need to see. And people who saw still don't believe. People who live with Chico Xavier still probably didn't believe. If someone materialized here, people are like, no, it can't be. I saw things. It's whatever. So it's not a matter of seeing. So we have to go that's the website yourself, maybe. And then he asked the spirits in the meeting, because we can have ideas. I can have an idea, and maybe I'll talk to you guys on those mediumistic meetings and be like, and it's also good to check with other people who have done it before us. Not that we depend on them, but remember there are different levels of obsession. One is fascination. And the fascination part is when the spirits convince us nothing we can do wrong. We can do no wrong. Every idea you have is great. Only you have the truth. Only your way is the way. Only you can do it right. And that when I come to you and say, hey, I had this idea of us doing this. And you were like, how? It's not even possible. Like we can, maybe not now, maybe later. So we have to train that patience as well. So they reply, they the spirits. Quotes, to the book in which you embody our instructions. Look. To the book, you embody our instructions. Not the book you're going to write about you. A lot of us are like that. Continue the communicating intelligences. You will give, as being our work rather than yours, the title, the Spirit's book, in French, Libres, the Livre des Spirits. Pardon my French. You shall not publish it under your own name, but under the pseudonym of Allan Kardec. Keep your own name reviled for your own works already published, but take and keep the name we have now given you for the book you are about to publish under our orders, and in general for all the work that you have to do to fulfill the mission, which, as we have already told you, has been confided to you by Providence, and which will gradually open before you as you proceed under our guidance. The spirits will like, look, you heard about this because they know before we ask, right? Of course. So they know they know when we think. And they said, okay, you can publish it, cool, but it's our book, not the book of Kardec. Right? Many people on the earth would be like, no, if I can't put my name, I don't want to do it. And we've seen it. If I don't want to do it my way, I'm not doing it. You're bossy. I'm like, no, I'm just following instructions. I'm actually the opposite, because to sit here and not do it my way, it's harder than doing my way. Right? I have to wait for things to be ready. A lot of people are like, no, publishing my own way. That would have been a choice, but he made the right choice. And it was produced and was very successful. And later, Anne Blackwell will remark, Kardec was not himself a quote medium, and was therefore obliged to avail himself of the mediumship of others to obtaining spirit communications for which they were evolved. So the theory of life and duty, immediately connected with his name and labor, is often wrongly supposed to have been the product of his single mind. So when we say Allan Kardec said, Allan Kardec wrote, it's actually a mistake of the speaker, and I do this. So I've been trying recently to catch myself and be like, no, the spirits told Kardec in the question and answer, whatever, 119. And it says, St. Augustine talks about self-knowledge, because it's a dissertation from St. Augustine. So that's, very humbling of him to be able to, and to trust and create a group, create a team that can support him, because nobody can do alone, especially not being a medium. And that gives even more value to his work, because if he was a medium, there could be cross-contamination. Not just from, is it really Erastus? Is it really St. Augustine, or is this my mind, my anemic? Because there's a anemic, when the soul of the medium himself or herself speaks. And we think it's a spirit, but it's really us. our, we heard something or previous life or whatever. So our gratitude, because right now today is the 16th, so it would be 2 days from now, the publication of the book, April 18th, 1857. So let's do the calculation there. Terezinha looks at him like, do the calculation. 2023 minus 1857. So 6, 11, 166? 166 years. All of this book. Again, the teachings are seen elsewhere, but this is the codification. And then next year, today, April 15th, so yesterday, was a publication of the book Gospel According to Spiritist, 1864. So we have 160 years next year, so I may think about some sort of event like we did for Paul and Stephen, a bit longer, more people talking at once, different aspect of the book, because it allows us to restudy. We studied them before. It's a great book. The Gospel According to Spiritism is a great book for gospel at home studies. Every single Spiritist needs to do a gospel at home once a week, alone or with others. And also is a great way to get explanations from certain parables of the Bible that are maybe confusing to us in this day, because we don't speak Greek. We didn't live, and well, maybe we did, but we don't necessarily speak Hebrew and Aramaic and Greek, and understand the cultural underpinnings of where we are. So let's pivot to the Spirit's book. When was the Spirit's book published? I just told you. April 18th, 1857. Mm-hmm. So how is the book structured?
4 parts.
4 parts. Questions and answers. So Kardec asks, the Spirit's answer. And there's also Kardec's commentaries, depending on which type. So let me see here if I can get one. So in this one, question and answer 191. So there's a question, there's an answer, there's a sub-question. In this book, they chose to do italicized for the questions and regular font for the answers. And then at the here with a little bit more indentation and a smaller font, those are editorial considerations. If you ever study how Bibles are translated, those are editorial considerations. So with a smaller font and more indented is Kardec's comments. So it's very important that if we will be invited by the spirits, when we invite you to read, to go for the presenter's course, to go to the pastor's course, they're pushing, they're like, you have time, let's help while we're alive. Then it's important to say, are the souls of our primitives in a state of spiritual infancy? So he's talking about the different levels of evolution of the people who incarnate on the earth. And then you say, well, in question 100, for example, is the hierarchy of spirits. It's not really a question, more of an essay. So you want to say question and answers 119, or you can say Kardec's comments to question, whatever. Just so we are used to, sometimes you hear a conversation, you watch a talk, if you want to see this done to the T, you watch Divaldo, if you're able to speak Portuguese. He will say, Victor Hugo in his book, blah, blah, says, blah, blah. This is to the perfection, because he knows it's not all work. So what we want to do is say, not Shane said, but in the Spirit's book. You may have seen me say it here, but I do my best to bring to you. Of course, this again, how you're educated, have academic training. We are trained in academia to say, when you write a paper, it's like, in 1960, whatever, so-and-so did this and found this. So eventually you get to the methods, what you did, your results, and what you conclude, but you always conclude I found Y, but so and so found X. This could be because of these. So this again, I couldn't imagine when I started my journey through education that I was going to end up doing, but it serves me very well here. It's not because I'm bad or more, none of that. It's just because it's important for us to know. When we bring the Bible, we say it's in the book of Luke, prodigal son. I was listening to Luke 15. So you want to do that. So there are 4 parts. What are the 4 parts? You should know one because we're studying March, April, and May. We're studying one part of the Spirit's book.
The moral laws.
The moral laws is one. It's the 3rd part of the Spirit's book. So we are dedicating this up for today because we want to celebrate the Spirit's book and the Gospel and Kardec. Then you have first causes, the spirit world, hopes and consolations is the last one. So if you want to know about God, you go to the first part. You want to know about waits for us in the spirit world, you go to the second part. And it's all questions and answers. Last but not least, not on here, how many questions we have in the spirit book. $500, $600, $800, $1,000, $2,000.
Can you repeat the question?
How many questions and answers are there in the Spirit's book?
1,082.
A little bit less. We're not counting the subsections. I probably, if I counted subsections, it would be closer.
1,064.
1019.
Or 90.
And guess what? You're never going to forget this because it's an answer by St. Louis. Guess what their last question is? Will the kingdom of God, good, ever be realized on the earth? That's the last question in this book. There's a conclusion to it. So you're going to have to go read Question and Answers 1019 by St. Louis to know the answer to that question, because that's how you put a cliffhanger there for us. Now, I mean, there's no amount of conversation that we could have. It took us over a year to go through the book in a study format together, where we're reading, and every time you read, you learn something different. But you want to know, as part of fraternal counseling, you want to tell people this. Because if you are vague, it's not that they don't want to believe you. It's just if you went to the priest and the priest didn't know how the Bible worked, you'd be like, not sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, noticing that we have different levels of knowledge. A novice, priest, Franciscan, whoever is going to have less knowledge, more knowledge in terms of like what's in each chapter. Someone who has more experience will have more wisdom on how to use that in their daily lives. Just as if you pick up the Bible in King James, you're going to understand part of it because it's a different type of English, a specific translation of a specific objective. And if you pick up the Message, Gene Peterson, he was a scholar, he became a pastor, and people didn't understand. What does this mean? So he was preaching every weekend and working as priest and getting calls, going to the hospital. And he wrote a message, and you can get an Audible, borrow from me. And it's not the Bible as you would translate letter by letter or type by type, but he explains what it would mean. So the parable of the talents is with money, for example. You were given 5,000, you give because he knows what the denarii were or whatever. So he does a conversion to put in your life. What does it mean for you? Yeah, if you get 5,000, but you squander the 5,000, someone gets 1,000, what does that mean? To put that into our, just like people from the Chosen do. Just like the book not solar, or the movie brings those words into our lives so we can envision ourselves there and studying it. Of course, we have to go back to the translations that are more faithful to the language and the structure of the time. Like Haroldo dos Dias has a beautiful translation from Greek to Portuguese. He just finished the letters now, and they're going to publish the letters. So he has the 4 books of the gospel. But he has there, because he's a judge, he works with words, beautiful orator, right? He speaks like nobody else. But he put the notes. There's more notes than text. He says this word could mean X, Y, and Z, but I chose this one because it usually is the behind the scenes of a translation that you don't get to see. These books here have, this one especially, he brings that. He explains on the beginning how he chose, what his purpose was. And that's why we don't skip the beginnings and the introductions. Because you wanna know what was behind the conversation. Most importantly is how are we using this, no matter how you study. But there are resources nowadays for us to do what we do. Good. As we know now of Kardec's legacy, and of just a little snippet of the book, and we'll keep moving through the laws. So the recommendation is read them, look at the calendar that we have posted. There's one right there, but there's also one on email, social media. Read the law beforehand. Even bring your questions, because there's only so much we can cover now. Just to plant the seed of those who are watching, or those who are here in presence in both realms, because I bet there are studies of the gospel, the spirit spoken. And remember, Spiritism teaches us how to live better today, so we arrive in the spiritual realm better. Right? It's a manual for life on the earth, so there, because true life is in the spiritual realm. So when we discarnate, we want to know those things, because there will be a period of time that we may not have access to study groups, things we take for granted today, books, paper, Audible, Kindle. There might be a time, remember, in Tucandar Luiz, sometimes they get bonus hours to go to the field of music. So if you have it in your mind, you don't forget that, you take with you, and knowledge you take with you. It may take some time to wake up those knowledge. So the more we study, the more we read. And now we will go ahead and have the music and the prayer, and we'll wrap up. Go into the music.
Where there is hatred, let me bring your love. Where there is injury, upon the blood. Where there is doubt, true faith in you. Oh, Master, grant that I may never see so much to be consoled as to console. To be understood as to understand. To be loved as to love with all my soul. Make me a shadow of your peace. Where there's despair in life, let me bring hope. There is darkness, only light. There is sadness, ever joy. Oh, Master, grant that I may never see so much to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love with all my soul. Make me a chapel of your peace. It's part of you that we are part of. Even to all men that we receive, dying that we're born to eternal life. Oh, Master, grant that I may never seek so much to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love with all my soul. Make me a child of your peace.
Right, so we go ahead with our
Dear Lord, thank you for today's blessings. Thank you for this beautiful earth. Thank you for the air we breathe. Thank you for the opportunities and challenges we have every day. Mentors, spirit guides, please continue to support us, to reach out to us, to aid us in our endeavors, in our trials. Please help us gain knowledge about Spiritism. Please help us strive to improve ourselves. Please help us become less selfish and more giving. Please help us strive to serve others. Please help us give more than we take. Please bless the sick, the homeless. May they feel God's love today. So be it.
right, everybody. Thank you so much. We'll see those on the internet next week.